All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. It's a Monday Halitics with Carlos. Hey, Carlos, how's it going?
What's up? What's up, Kyle? Glad to be here. Glad to be here. A lot of stuff going on, so I'm ready for it.
Well, I'm sort of intrigued that you gave that little sign. I'm not sure, but we're going to talk about those signs because I got some video of Kyle Kulinski, who seems to always be doing that stuff, and also AOC, who likes to move around a lot. So I wanted your commentary on those kind
It's
of
the Gen
ticks
Z
or
dichotomy.
their shtick. Maybe it's a shtick. I don't know what you want to call it. It's always great to have Carlos on, and what I appreciate most, and there's a lot I appreciate. I mean, you're super well informed. You bring a different perspective, a youth perspective to the show. And I know we talked about this, Carlos, because you're black. Obviously, people can see that, but I don't really think of like you're bringing a black perspective. I never think of it that way, but I do think you bring a young person's
Awesome.
perspective, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
Obviously,
Thank you.
we all bring our own thing to the
Yeah.
program.
No, I mean, how I appreciate I appreciate. Well, first of all, thank you. Definitely hope I bring the young side of it too. But no, even your like union background, your like legal background that you bring to it, and actually like the education that you know. And I mean, you helped me like kind of start up in this organizing space too. So definitely, like, shout out to you for all that.
Awesome, man. I love hearing that stuff. That makes me feel so good. Whenever people that I've worked with give me some kind of, whatever, thanks, I think is the right word. I just like, I start to like, blush. Okay. I blush. Yeah. I blush. So I've got a little red. I'm pretty olive skin. So you don't really see it. Like I'm not really pale, but you can see it. So I hate to do this. I hate talking about this. And there was 2 months when Trump was first elected when I didn't have to focus on this genocide, but scores of Palestinians killed. We're recording Sunday. This is not a live Halitics. Usually they're live. Today is a recording of a Sunday program I'm doing with Carlos. So this is the news from yesterday, Saturday. And for a moment there, we had a bit of a ceasefire, Carlos. I know this bothers you almost as much. I shouldn't say. I mean, I know it's awful.
Yeah, it's not. It's we're living in like non-human times. Like literally, you have people who are being treated as if they're not humans, or even like of the same, or even animals. Like this is worse than you would treat humans or animals in this. In yeah, it's depressing and sad.
Look at what we've done to these people's home. Look at that. You can see in that picture. I mean, I'm gonna sort of see if I can just make it a little larger. This is just the image from Anadolu Ajansi. That's a Turkish news agency. And Carlos, we always are like in this country putting down Muslim countries, non-European countries. Supposedly they're backwards. They don't have media, but they're telling us the truth about our genocide with Israel that our media doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking more and more each day. If you actually want to get real news, you have to go outside of mainstream American news because America is probably one of the most like propaganda forward countries, and then we shrouded in calling other countries, oh, they have propaganda, they have state media. We may not have quote unquote technically state media, but we definitely have the state controls what the media narrative is, and the media almost hand in hand puts out the same narrative of the state because they're both run by the same oligarchy that we're going to get into later, but they're all kind of run by the same oligarchy. That's why we have a Zionist government.
I don't think we can ever count on these privileged elites, these media elites, to fight for the people, to stand up against an oppressive government. And that's true for media. That's true for legal. We see the law firms, right, just bending their knee to Trump. These people are multimillionaires. Some are billionaires. They love their privileges. They love a king. They like having a king. They're not going to take on the king.
No, they think in their mind, Trump represents who they kind of want to be, but feel too like politically correct to say it out loud. So in their mind is, oh, okay, he wants to do a full on, or wants to continue the full on genocide now, just the removal and takeover of Gaza. They feel like, well, this is what they want anyway. So, let's just be quiet, do what we're told to do and go along with it. And most of them don't. I will honestly say this. I don't think most of the millionaires, billionaires even too much care about ideology. Most of it is as long as their profit are good, they could not care less about what happens.
100%.
Thank you for actually bringing up the numbers, because I didn't know it was. I didn't know that what is being told is that high. But even from statistics and data, even from Trump himself, we know the numbers are much higher than that.
These are just the bodies they've identified.
Yeah.
That they can say, yes, this child was shot in the head. This mother was blown up by a bomb that was made by the Boeing Corporation. This father was got a missile, in his house, and he was buried under rubble. So we know those people. But again, Doctors Without Borders, Doctors Against Genocide, the journalists who haven't been killed, because Israel kills journalists routinely. Yeah. Carlos, they are all saying the death tolls in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it's disgusting. I remember at a press conference that Trump had when he said, "Oh, you had about like 2.3 million people who live there. Now it's about 1.8." He's even telling people how much devastation that America is causing, because Israel, for not America, Israel could not do any of this. Israel would just be another country with a small population that nobody really cares about. But because America is a Zionist country and also has a lot of racism within it too, because you also look at the different races here, you look at the different religions here. America is very set in, no, we will continue colonial expansion through Israel.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, you're answering a question I was going to pose, and I talked about this last week with Arlen, but why do you think Americans aren't outraged at this? I mean, we should be, and yet there just seems to be no appetite from either the left or the right to take on the Israeli lobby.
I think that, I'll say for the left, I think there is definite, like, you have your like pockets of leftists who will fight tooth and nail to stop AIPAC, DMFI, all of those. But I think the broader left feels that, okay, they're taking over. AIPAC is getting rid of elected officials. AIPAC is working with these organizations and colleges to kind of get rid of students, deport people, all that. So the left is in a state of almost like shock and fear of like, okay, if we do something, then there are major consequences for us. For the right, I think for the right, this is like a who cares? Because they all already agree with things like Citizens United. They agree with organizations and corporations buying up the country. I think you have some overlap where you have the populist right, which is more of a fan of saying like, no, America first, in their own twisted way, what America first means. But even they don't like the idea of another country buying our government. But they're also, at the end of the day, still Zionists. So if this was any other country, that's the crazy thing. If this was any other country, people would be outraged. You look at Bob Menendez with Egypt or Eric Adams with the Turkish government, people were outraged by what happened. But here with Israel, it's kind of like, well, what would you expect other than a takeover?
I think you're being a little too generous to the left when you say that there are Democrats and progressives who are standing against this. We didn't, maybe I'm wrong about this, but there was very little opposition during the Harris-Biden administration to their policies, which were basically what Trump's are. Maybe, the one difference I want to be fair. First of all, two things. One, Trump did push for that ceasefire, which for a couple of months, people weren't getting bombs falling on their head, which is a good thing, objectively. Two, Trump did send all these 2-ton or 1-ton bombs over, which Biden actually did halt.
Yeah. So it's like you take one thing and get the other. To me, with the Biden Harris, it was going to be totally rhetoric. It was just, I will say the things, and even I think we even had this conversation maybe before about the Jamal Bowman and Corey Bush show where Jamal Bowman, he was talking to Breonna Joy Gray, and was talking about Kamala and Gaza and saying, well, we feel like we could change her because her rhetoric wasn't that bad. I mean, to me, Kamala Harris just never said the second part of her plan probably 9 out of 10 was to do what Trump did of like, we're going to remove them and we'll take it over. But no one just said it. And it's like, what do you like better? Do you like the rhetoric, or would you rather face the wolf or the fox? And to me, both are evil. It's just which one makes you feel better at the end of the day.
I think it's being boiled alive or fried in oil. I don't see a difference. And I think what people kind of forgot or didn't want to talk about when it came to Kamala Harris, her husband, and you know, you can be married whoever you want, right? Of course, that's good. Her husband is a Zionist. He's Jewish. He's always been a staunch ally of Israel. It's not like her family wasn't closely tied to Israel. Yeah. So she had a little tiny bit of rhetoric, which frankly you could find with Biden too. People said, oh, Biden never talked about the Palestinians. There were a couple of moments where he said, yeah, Israel probably went too far, which is about what Harris said. So no real, that I could tell, daylight between them.
No, it's depressing. It's like, where do you go when there's nowhere to go? Like you have the Green Party, yes, you have PSL, which are good on, which are actually good on this issue, but you have just the major two parties, which are both sold to AIPAC, sold to Israel. And it's just also weird, maybe because I am younger, but it's weird seeing like, how did this happen where America is so tied to a separate government and there hasn't really been any faltering of like, you know what, Israel said something one time that we're not liking as Americans, so we're going to look at changing stuff up. But the same people will say, no, we shouldn't fund Ukraine either. To me, I believe there should be peace within the Ukraine-Russia conflict, but why can't we look at the same way we look at Ukraine or the same way that we as Americans treat Russia? We can't look at that with Israel when what's happening in Israel and Gaza is almost 1,000 times worse.
I agree. I think it's worse. What Israel is doing is ethnic cleansing. It's occupation. Yeah. They'll claim they had a provocation, but I think that provocation was far less and it was pretextual. Whereas Russia really did have legitimate fears of the West. Yeah. Israel's fears of Hamas are based purely on the fact that Israel's oppressing them, persecuting, killing them. So yeah, they're mad about it and they're responding, and that's what we're seeing. We're going to get to the so-called resistance in a moment with AOC. And I know you're skeptical about them, Carlos, and we'll talk about that and my skepticism too, and where I'm hoping I could be wrong. But I did want to just share this. You and I discussed this, and I post this also at the Facebook group, by the way, Halitics. I did get a strike. Well, they didn't say it's quite a strike. I got some sort of, what do they call it? Some kind of violation notification from YouTube. Let me share this. I want to talk a little bit about, because I jumped to a conclusion that I think was incorrect. And I want to be real clear what I did wrong, because I want people to know what I did wrong. And I will actually, because I do think I did something wrong. At first, I got this email and it got me nervous because I'm totally dependent on YouTube. If they stop distributing me, I know Jimmy Dore used to talk about this all the time. If they cut you off, you're really screwed. I mean, yeah, I could put it on a website, I can put it in other media or other platforms, but this is the big kahuna, and they make it so easy too, Carlos. I know you were telling me about this, about how it's tough what we do as content producers, or what is the word, content creator.
Yep.
But it's hard, but YouTube does make it a lot easier, and it's free. So I give, it's pretty damn good, actually. It's pretty amazing. So if they give you like a couple, 3 strikes, you're out. It's not good. You don't want them. I have no strikes right now, just to be clear. But they sent me this, and I thought the misinformation was I put this very obvious, phony cartoon devil's horns on Trump in one of my thumbnails. And it was more about almost saying to look at Dems, they pretend that Trump's the devil. Trump's bad, but, they make him into the devil. And they said misinformation. So the first thing I thought is, they're saying they think people will be confused into believing that's an actual picture of Trump with devil horns, that he actually has horns. I misled them. And I really thought that was the concern, or they were saying it because they don't want anything negative about Trump. But it turns out the manipulation wasn't Trump. At least I don't know this for a fact because I've never been notified specifically, but I'm almost certain now that this is what I did. What was the misinformation? Remember the video or audio? I don't know if you saw it on my program, but it made a big splash last week, Carlos, where Vice President Vance criticized Elon Musk for allegedly, I guess, making him look bad. I don't know if you remember that.
Yep, I remember what you're talking about.
I played that clip twice, and it turns out it was AI generated. It was bogus. It never happened.
Oh, wow. Wait, so because a lot of news sites were reporting this. I haven't heard no one else say that it was fake or, oh, wow.
Yeah, but look at this. This is from Fact Check. And what they're real clear about at YouTube, and I cannot fault them for this. You can't manipulate images, video in a way. You can do it like as a sort of a parody, right? Like that's fine. It's obvious. Like the horns, right? The horns would be considered a parody. No one's really going to think he has horns. And they were so amateurishly done. I'm not going to show it because I don't want to risk anything. But, you know, it was my very pathetic, just copy, slapdash, copy and cut and paste internet. You know, no one's going to, it's not Disney live action. Let me say that. Ooh. So, but this really was designed to fool people, and I didn't know it fooled me. I mean, I was a victim too.
Same. I thought that this was real. I thought the recording was real when it happened. I watched it on your show and also like some like mainstream media clips that talked about it. So I was thinking, okay, this is real news. This is actually something that's going on. But wow, okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did, Carlos, because I told my wife about this, and she was like, "You mean that wasn't real audio?"
Yeah, it's surprising. It's surprising and also it's a very scary tale about what AI can be used to do, and how who knows what in the future is going to happen as AI grows and gets bigger, and then it comes to actually creating like fake content out there to stop movements or stop just real news from going out.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's very scary because it really seemed plausible. Like they even put in a little part where they said inaudible. And according to the expert who knows who these experts are? They're just some guys in their basement in T-shirts. But according to the expert, that was like a tell. And I was like, well, that told me it was real. It seemed real to me. All right, here are a couple more experts. These are your MSNBC progressives, Michael Steele and Simone Sanders. We have concerns about the authenticity of AOC and Bernie. They don't like AOC. Neither of these two like AOC and Bernie, but they're sure they're totally authentic in their fight oligarchy tour. The problem is these two like oligarchy, so this is a part of the Kyle Kulinski video. So we're really featuring Kulinski, but since the video leads with those two, I've got to show them, and he's going to bash them, but he's going to bash us too, Carlos. So let's listen to Kulinski bash us.
These things, they can see these things. So again, I want to reiterate.
I want you to stop. See how he's doing that stuff? Remember I was telling, and AOC always does that. You know how she does this? And what is that? Can you explain that? Because I don't get it.
I think it's just a younger generation thing of talking more with your hands and stuff. Well, Bernie does it too when he does like the oligarchy and the hands, and Trump does it too. It's weird. I think it's like certain people are very kind of like emotive when they talk, and they talk with their hands a lot.
Well, Bernie and Trump do it. You're absolutely right. But AOC really, she's doing the dancing too when she's, so she kind of adds her own little flavor to it. And, this guy does this. But, you said, we were talking about young people. They're not so young. I mean, he's 35, 36, and so was AOC, I believe.
Oh, yeah. You're right, actually. It's hard to believe because they came up probably when they were a lot younger to like in their 20s. A lot of us heard about them or found out about them in their 20s. So I feel like they were a lot younger than what they actually are. And they try to present themselves as like representing younger people. So a lot of times you start thinking, oh, okay, yeah, they're younger in their 20s, early 30s. Like, oh, no, they're full grown adults.
Yeah, well, he's got that dyed hair. So I guess that helps with the appeal, I guess. I don't know. I shouldn't say that because who knows? Maybe I'll start dyeing he's pretty. I wondered why Kulinski does that. because I think he looks better with just the brown, sandy hair. But I think maybe he's got premature gray, is my guess. I don't know.
It could be. It could be. Let me try to hide this a little bit. Be a little younger than I am.
That's that. Yeah. All right, here we go. Here's more Kulinski.
Literally anybody you see who's trying to tamp down enthusiasm for the Bernie and AOC rallies or the Tim Walz town halls or the Ro Khanna town halls, anybody who's doing that, dismiss them. They are not your ally. They are your enemy. Because if you can't look at the most effective resistance to Donald Trump and say, hey, despite my disagreements with it, obviously these people are correct on the broader question and we should back them right now. If they can't do that, they're not an ally. They are an enemy.
Right. So what do you, that just jumped at me, Carlos, but I saw you making faces.
Yeah.
You're an enemy if you question these two. Are they gods?
I guess they're cult leaders at this point. Like, we should give your gold up and all. I'm very confused by that statement because, again, Kyle Kulinski was one of the people who was supposedly supporting Jill Stein in the third party movement. So now I'm confused how we get that, because even the people who are criticizing AOC and Bernie, they're trying to redirect people to the Jill Stein, Kashama Shawant, and Chris Hedges tour that they're doing as well. So it's not like anyone's moving away from leftist politics and leftist ideology. It's just, how do we see them forward? How do we see the pathway forward? Do we see it through the Democratic Party, or do you see it throughout, like outside of the Democratic Party? That's what I see. But I also have my other hesitation with AOC and Bernie as well that we can talk about.
I find it so frustrating that this guy is telling us it's so unprogressive. I mean, there are many examples where we can criticize AOC and Bernie, and I'm going to end our conversation in 20 minutes or whenever we're through this, to really delve deep into whether maybe there's something there in AOC that maybe neither of us see. I really want to address that because I don't want to, cut, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But to me right now, I see them as I did in this thumbnail here. And I hope nobody is misled into believing that Kyle Kulinski, AOC, and Bernie Sanders are just heads on sheepdogs, but they are Democratic sheepdogs, are they not? They're saying you can't go off the sheep. You sheep have to stay in your pen.
Yeah, I mean, they're not talking about moving outside of the party. They're not talking about different ways to get to where we are. The one thing I'll give Bernie Sanders is that he said people should also look at running independent and not just Democrat, but that's about it. And even when he said people should look at he didn't even say a third party movement. He was like another party within the Democratic Party. And I was like, well, Justice Democrats was that. Like that's been tried. The Squad was another basically party within the Democratic Party. We've tried it and we've seen it go nowhere at all. And also I'm a little hesitant about their tour overall, because it seems more to me like it is more of a conversation about being anti-Trump, which is great. We do need to have that push, but it's not coinciding with policies that are actually going to make people's lives better. That this anger, it can actually take hold of policies and change the actual process of the Democratic Party. It seems more of just, we want more people to be out and loud against Trump, which is all fine and good, but where do we go from there? Because to me, it seems like the propping up of like Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Chris Murphy, it seems like they're propping up like just another face, another generation of the same Biden, Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton types, and there's no change in it. It's just, we want someone to yell just a little bit louder. That's it.
100% on that. I gave you the like. You saw the little like thumb there, and that's also to say you like our video, you like the Halitics that we're doing here, and also don't forget click subscribe as well. And it's always great to have Carlos with us on this program. Carlos, some of my videos last week did really well in terms of numbers. I'd been kind of down in the mouth with a dozen or something, but we're getting close, well over 500 with one of them. Or I think, maybe it's 427, but I thought it was more. It's hard to know because they keep flipping them around. But I got to go viral. We got to figure this out. We got to, and you won't lose by this. I'm going to figure out a way, Carlos. I'm going to Disneyland. I'll take you with me, but I got to get the ticket first, right? All right, now Kulinski loves his AOC, and she can do. You got to support her. If you don't get it, dog, And
so you're not a real Democrat.
By the way, when he says that stuff, I'm like, again, I hate that to me, it's contrived. It doesn't feel authentic, but maybe that's who he is. I don't know.
I think maybe not. Maybe that's just kind of his vibe of that, like the surfer bro kind of attitude. Maybe it's not. It's just weird to see the shift, especially from someone who co-founded as himself, just as Democrats. It's like, you don't see how this is like not getting anywhere. Like this is just like almost like a false flag type of like movement.
Bro, they're totally getting over on you, Kyle. I don't know why you don't get it, my man, but they is for shizzling you, whatever the hell that means. I don't know, but I've heard that expression. So
in the hand motions too. So
I know, my man Carlos. So it's BS. It really is. But and Kulinski, look, Kulinski's rich. He's got like, I would die for his numbers. You go close to 2 million subscribers. By my back of the envelope math, you get about 100,000 a year from YouTube per million subscribers. It works somewhere around there. So, and very few people have that many subscribers. I mean, it's a tiny number. So if he's got, let's say 1.5 million, he's got 150K. It's not bad. You're sitting in your home, with your wife who's doing really well, crystal ball. I mean, you're making a good living for sure, and getting invited to events and paid. So he's doing quite well. He's perfectly. The oligarchy's treating brother Kyle pretty darn well.
It is.
Here is AOC. I played parts of this before, but I really wanted to. This is the part that I guess gets Kulinski going.
I believe that our elected officials should take on abuses of corporate greed everywhere they find it. We must get big money out of politics. That is how we make clear that our country is not for sale. And Arizona, that is why I don't and never will take money from industry lobbyists or corporations.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. She gets a big round of applause. And it's true, she doesn't, but she supports candidates who do. She backs them. She's all in favor of them. So what good does that do, Carlos?
Yeah, it's like saying, like, I'm going to do the right thing, but I'm also going to support people not doing the right thing and hope that you support them too. And I'll just be the one person to speak out about it. It's like, she wouldn't talk about the Democratic Congress people that, remember, she was even at one point donating money from her campaign, which is funded by non-corporate PACs, grassroots people, giving it to your corporate-backed Democrats who are taking corporate money as well. So it's kind of like, how do I preach a message of fight back against corporate money, but then I also say, go support corporate money candidates because we need more of them as well. I mean,
it's a gimmick. She's full of it. She can do it. She can get away with it because people still send her money, which I wish they would stop. But once they stopped, she was just turn around and start raising money from companies, I'm sure. I want to play this clip. I know I'm sort of stepping on you a little bit, Carlos, and it's not really fair, but I want to play Kulinski's take on why she's so great. Then we're going to, I think, debunk once and for all Kulinski.
Great example. Ruben Gallego, the Democratic senator, at the same time Bernie and AOC were doing this rally, they were doing a meeting with venture capitalists like Mark Andreessen, the right-wing billionaire. It was Matt Iglesias, Mark Andreessen, Ruben Gallego, $5,000 a plate, meeting with venture capitalists. There's your two versions of the Democratic Party. Which one do you want? It's the Michael Steele, where Republicans, but we're anti-Trump, don't talk about oligarchy, and Ruben Gallego and John Fetterman, like that's one side, right? The fucking capitulators, the people who cuck themselves over and over to MAGA.
By the way, I want to just stop it. That's another thing I cannot stand about him. He can't stop cursing. He throws out like the cuck word. I won't use the F and the S. Yeah, you can do it on YouTube. No one's going to censor you, but maybe you have a totally different sense. To me, it makes him look small to me. It makes him kind of lame.
Really, I think for a lot of people, it makes it more like relatable just because the majority of people in this country cuss a lot. And it kind of makes it seem relatable. And I also think it gets that kind of like, oh my gosh, Kyle Kulinski destroyed, blah, 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 blah. And then it has that more like rage, clickbait sort of attitude to it. So I think it's,
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm not saying that's the wrong response. I'm just giving you how I react to it. I feel like this is serious stuff, and he's kind of just making it into a comedy routine almost. But I get that. I get what you're saying, and I appreciate that feedback for sure. And maybe that's why he does it, obviously, because it does relate for many folks. All right, more. Actually, I don't need to play more of that. So he was clear, right? He can't stand Ruben Gallego, right? It's your choice is either the Democratic Party of AOC and Bernie or the party of Ruben Gallego and the resistance of Michael Steele. So let's play a little more of our gal pal here, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Here's what that means. That means our communities, each and every one of us, choosing and voting for Democrats and elected officials who know how to stand for the working class. And Tempe, I want to give you your flowers for a second, because you all have been working overtime to make that happen. In fact, one thing I love about Arizonans is that you all have shown that if a U.S. Senator isn't fighting hard enough for you, you're not afraid to replace her with one who will.
And I'm going to stop that for one sec, Carlos, because she's talking about Kristen Sinema there. They didn't replace Kristen Sinema. She just didn't run.
Yeah, it was kind of like, it's not even realizing like what's in front of you. And to me, yes, I'll give them some credit because they did like protest her nonstop to let her know, hey, you're not wanted here. But again, she didn't run. So it's not like she chose to let someone else win instead of her. Now, could that be because she knew she was going to lose? Could that be because she was like, look, I just want to be here one term, set myself up to go do something late, to go just make money on the private side? Who knows? But kind of got what we knew. Like no one replaced her. No one voted her off.
That didn't it sound to you? Because I talked about this with Arlen last week. I'm playing this twice because I think this is really important stuff. And I really do think it exposes her for the phony that I think she is, the faux-aggressive, but we'll get into maybe she's not. Maybe she's playing the long game. She's going to pull the rug out from under the billionaires. Maybe we'll see. But didn't you? My sense when I heard that was she's saying Arizona voters voted out Kristen Sinema, but they didn't.
No, they didn't. And it's not even that. Even going back to the clip that you just played of Kyle Kulinski talking about how horrible Ruben Gallego is. Well, she's also kind of like saying you all replaced her with Ruben Gallego, who's good. But then it's like, well, he's not good. He's taking money from the same billionaires that y'all are saying are bad people to take money
It's from. Even worse because you're 3 steps ahead of me, Carlos. Let me just play a little bit more of Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
And that's how you got 2 fantastic senators in Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego.
So there it is. 2 fantastic. Oh, let me get rid of that. 2 fantastic senators. And this is who Kulinski is saying is so great because she's not Ruben Gallego.
Yeah. And both of them, Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego, are both corporate-backed candidates who are there because of corporate money, and the corporation have said, we want you to be there. It's sad. It's like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth by saying like, oh, corporations are horrible, but then please support these corporate-backed Democrats just so we can say we have more Democrats in office. There's no ideology of these people to say, look, these are our values. Do not support people who don't have these values. And then we're going to fight tooth and nail to get people in office, even if you want to go just the Democrat route. We're going to start winning these primaries to get Democrats in office who have a certain ideology. But no, it's just Democrat for the sake of being Democrats. And that's one thing that the right is good at. The right is good at saying, no, in our primaries, we're going to have people who have this MAGA mentality when primaries, but Democrats don't have that same type of, no, that's not true. Other than the corporate Democrats who say, no, we will have corporate candidates win, right. The progressives, it seems like it's kind of this thing of we should have progressives in office. We'll push some progressive stuff, but we're not going to fight. Like, we're not going to do the things that MAGA does to your John McCain types. And we're not going to even do the same fight that corporate Democrats do to progressive Democrats.
We're not going to push back. And it's amazing to me, though, that she in that speech says how she uses the word fantastic to describe the senator that Kyle Kulinski totally bashes.
Yeah.
But in that exact same video, he's praising her to the stars and saying we can't even criticize her. We can't criticize her, even though she calls a guy that Kulinski says is corrupt. Yeah. Fantastic. Let me give you Kulinski's, what I believe his response would be. Mm-hmm. Bro, we're facing an existential threat. Don't you get that? Yes, she's got to placate and play the game a little bit, but we've got to all come together against MAGA. Why don't you understand that, dude? So how do you respond to that? Because I don't even know how I would respond to that.
Really, I look at it as, well, one, we're not getting anywhere if we use this moment, which honestly you can see is one of the first kind of like waking up moments that we've ever seen your normie Democrats have. If we don't use this moment to put a firm flag in the stand by saying we are not standing by not just corporations and billionaires, but we're not standing by corporate-backed candidates, that we will lose this whole moment. It will be taken over by your corporate people to just say, hey, I'm willing to yell more at your at Trump people, but I'm not going to change our overall policies. Like, come 2026, come 2028, we're going to run on the same BS policies that don't get us anywhere. But what we're going to do is say Trump's Hitler and Trump's a demon and Trump is the worst thing on the earth, which in a lot of cases he is horrible. Like he's a horrible president, he's authoritarian dictator, fascist person. But you got to call out those same characteristics on the Democratic side as well and say, no, both sides are wrong. This is why, even if you want to be in the Democratic circle for it, this is why the leftist Democrats are the right ones who should be leading this movement.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. 99%. I don't know if do we want leftist Democrats leading it, or do we just want not Democrats?
See, that's where I'm at like an impasse with that, because a big part of me does agree. You need non-Democrats leading this fight. This should be like an independent fight just against Trump, but also like leading policy mindset. And then I also look and say, you need the leftist Democrats to kind of work with the independent side because they have a bigger platform just by being Democrats. So it needs to be some cohesiveness. The problem is within the Democratic Party, there is such a tight grip on the people who join it that you will not criticize this party ever, to where you don't see that in any other party. Like, to me, the one thing that Republican Party has to it is open to criticism from within. And if you have the fight to take over the Republican Party, they will let you take it over and say, hey, as long as the train keeps moving forward, we don't care what it looks like. The problem with Democratic Party is that their corporate backers say, we will bring this train will sooner halt, and we will let the passengers off before we actually move it forward in any way.
I think they would be happier. I think they're happier that Trump is president than if somehow Bernie had become president. Yeah. I was watching the Due Distance Bros. I don't know if you watched that program. They were saying, I guess Keaton was saying that the liberal Democratic elites recognize they screwed up in 2016. They'll never admit it, but they realize now that they should have supported Bernie over Hillary because then they wouldn't be stuck with Trump. And I don't agree with that take because I think they prefer Trump. They're happy with Trump. Trump cuts their taxes. His policies, and we've seen articles pointing out, hey, he wants to slash Social Security and drown the government in a bathtub. They're happy with that.
Yeah.
So I don't know why Weiss would say these liberal Democratic elites, the Hakeem Jeffries, the Pelosi's, maybe even the Obamas, I think they made it clear they prefer Trump to Bernie.
Yeah. I mean, in their mind, they feel like, ooh, it sounds better if we say we should have voted for Bernie Sanders. And they think that's what people want to hear, even though if we redid 2016 all over again, they would still say, no, we do not need Bernie Sanders. We do not need to change the actual economic system with the country. We just need someone who's going to rhetorically talk about it. Again, they would love Hillary Clinton if she came around again and just spoke like a Bernie Sanders and AOC against Trump. That's all that they want. They just want someone who's going to sound tough and policy-wise be neoliberal. That's it. They just want a neoliberal fighter. And to me, it's even crazier because when you look at like Jasmine Crockett, I say this, Jasmine Crockett, when it comes to throwing jabs at Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans, great. When it comes to her backers, she's very sold into AI, cryptocurrency, and the same billionaires that we're concerned about with people like Ruben Gallego and other people. It's just, we're not getting anything. And this is like
I was disappointed. Just let me jump in real quick because I just want to throw this out there. Was going after Trump for trying to stop the war in Ukraine. She and Bernie have been terrible in that issue. They have been totally pro endless war with Russia. And Crockett and Bernie have said some good things about Gaza, that we need to stop the genocide, but they haven't done, rallied or tried to bring Democrats together to stop the killing in any meaningful way. And they voted for various resolutions against Hamas.
Yeah, because that's what we should all be concerned about now. It's craziness. It's insane. There is the Democratic Party, for worse, is very good at destroying movements from within itself. And I'll say that they're better at it than I think Republicans are, because I think at the end of the day, even the populist Republicans, they agree with the corporate mechanism. They agree with still giving money to the wealthiest people and still keeping the country going like it is. The problem is on the left, we don't agree with that. And it runs into like kind of institutional kind of disagreements to where the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, which is the Democratic Party, to me, there's not a corporate wing really. It is a leftist wing inside of a corporate plane that we're on. We just have a small portion of it, and they only really allow progressives to be or leftists to be platformed only when they're not talking about either the Democratic Party or like really striking a challenge and a fear to corporate power. If corporate power honestly thought AOC and Bernie doing this big rally was going to be horrible for their profits or horrible for the Democratic Party overall, they would stop it. They would say, this is not going to happen anymore. We're going to make you look horrible. And it's just insane to me. And how maybe you have an answer for this. It's insane to me how you get so many progressive people who run for office and win. They never get anything out of the party to even like give leftists a reason to stay within it, because AOC, even if she would have got oversight chair, I think that is something that the progressive people would have said, okay, that's some kind of victory that we could share. I don't really know how much of a victory it is, because it's not a policy arm of the government, but we would have been happy about it. And there would have been some kind of feeling like, okay, maybe this is working. You don't even get those rhetorical wins.
They don't give the symbol, right? They don't give the symbol. And yet she's out there. Oh, we've got two fantastic senators. I mean, they're the senators from the wing of the party that torpedoed her, that kneecapped her, that kept her from getting that power. And she can't even criticize them. Bernie won't even entertain. I don't have the clip, but I wanted your take on this. And I just put this up. This is some thoughts I have about AOC that I really want to get your response to. But you know how Bernie was asked, well, would you want AOC to join you in the Senate? And he's like, yeah, asking a stupid question. So my question, I thought that was a terrible answer by Bernie. I thought, no, you should say, of course I would prefer she to this guy Schumer, who's from Wall Street, but he can't. So I heard this guy, Ron Placone, used to do the Jimmy Dore show. He was on with Sabby. Oh,
he's also on with Status Coup too.
I don't watch that show. Is that? That's
You should with Jordan Sheridan.
With Sheridan, I do watch that. I do. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't. It took me a moment to realize you were talking about Sheridan. Mm-hmm. I know that is the name of the show. You're right, of course. I haven't seen him on that. Anyway, he was on with Sabby, and he defended Bernie's answer. He said that, well, the guy who asked the question, Jonathan Karl, is this corporate reporter, which he is. It's true. And you don't want to throw him a bone because he's just looking to cause dissension within the Democratic Party, and he's looking for a soundbite. And look, Bernie's going after John Schumer and AOC, and he's trying to divide the party. So Placone is saying Bernie had, a legit reason to kind of refuse to respond.
I mean, isn't that what, as leftists, we want? We want there to be mass conversation about how there's a difference in two different types of Democrats. Like, it's weird that the left is already like capitulating to itself to be like, you know what? It's okay. Let's try to make a win where there is a win. And Bernie Sanders basically, in my mind, snubbing AOC to say that, yes, she should be a senator. She would be a great representation for New York against the corporate Wall Street who's taken over the New York senators, let's go back to when he ran in 2020 and ran in 2016 when Justice Democrats was up. He would have said, we need to get rid of these people. But Bernie Sanders is the chair of a Senate committee. Chuck Schumer is treating him like a regular Democrat who's worked his way up. So now it's less of a reason. And also, AOC's not even saying she should run against Chuck Schumer. To me, it's kind of weird that we're focusing all this hate on Chuck Schumer and not all 10 of them, because it's closer for AOC to get rid of Kyrsten Sinema than it is to get rid of Chuck Schumer. And Kyrsten Sinema also voted for, not Kyrsten Sinema, Kristen Gillibrand, the other New York senator. I think her primary is coming up in 2026. It's easier to get rid of her than it is to get rid of Chuck Schumer at this point because it'll take longer. And also, to me, I think that the calling for her to primary Chuck Schumer is almost like a false flag too, because I think some people are concerned about her running for president in 2028. And I also think they think, well, let's push this now. And by the time we get to Chuck Schumer running for re-election, we can push some other Democrats instead who are more corporate backed. We'll just say this now to gas you up. But we're not doing this.
Well, look, Eric Adams could lose the race for mayor against Andrew Cuomo. You've got two stalwarts there, two pro people candidates. But Eric Adams goes down to Cuomo. Maybe Adams runs for senator. The Democrat Party would prefer Eric Adams every day of the week to AOC to be the senator. And this is a guy who, again, didn't he roll out the red carpet for Trump? He said he was like, I'll go prosecute immigrants. I'm going to help ICE. Yeah, but they don't.
Even so, they didn't pardon him for his charges. They just put it basically like on a hold. So the moment he is no longer useful to Trump, they're going to say, cool, bring the charges back and we'll go through with it. I think Andrew Cuomo, if he doesn't win a mayor's race, with the crazy amount of support that man is getting right now, he could run for Senate. And then even crazier is, to me, Kristen Gillibrand, who used her name and her platform to get rid of Al Franken for the sexual misconduct, is now called on Andrew Cuomo to be removed as governor for his sexual misconduct and charges, is now supporting Andrew Cuomo, saying, well, people can change. Well, hold up now. That is your brand. Your brand is getting rid of people and men who are using their power to stay in office and kind of pushing aside the women who they sexual assault and stuff. So how are you making this switch now just because Andrew Cuomo is a corporate darling?
Because she's a phony and it's just all politics, and she saw an opportunity there to jump, push to step on Al Franken and climb the ladder by pushing him down with her shoes, and she did. So and people hate that. We hate that. We don't like that in politics, and we just keep getting it.
Yeah.
And this is again an opportunity for we hate the self-serving nature, the disingenuous. Not when you make it about policy. Well, these policies hurt people. Andrew Cuomo did not fight for poor, struggling and working class Americans. Andrew Cuomo did not address terrible wealth and income inequality. He did not address the fact that Black New Yorkers are living in 20% of the wealth gap is like probably 90% or more or greater or much greater than that. I think it's $20,000 to $250,000 in terms of the family income for an African American family in New York State versus a New York State white family could be $500,000. It's just extraordinary, the income inequality in New York State, and it has a very significant race component. She doesn't care about that. She doesn't care about working class people, regardless of their color. She just saw an opportunity to thrust herself ahead, and she took it. And then people hate that. People want you to fight based on principle and policy.
Yep. And it's why Bernie Sanders had such a movement as he did, because people saw him as a good faith actor in all this. He's been doing this for generations. He's a good faith actor in it. And now Bernie Sanders, and I also think there is all this push behind Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders was still age-wise, could run for president again, they would not try to platform him at all. They would tell him, we don't want to hear this, that he is trying, because he's trying to ruin the Democratic Party. He is trying to push more, and they would have grabbed on that clip when he said run as a independent and try to use that to say he wants to destroy the Democratic Party and not have them win, and taking him down. But they know he is fully backing the Democratic cause, so they're like, hey, you're not going to challenge us. Why do we feel like we have to challenge you? And
I mean, the only way, right? The AOC and Bernie may fool themselves into thinking that by playing nice with the Democratic Party and placating the party and not challenging the party, they're building power within the party. It's the complete opposite. They're building no power. The only way you build power is you challenge these people, you scare them, you threaten them, and then you use your leverage to say, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to keep beating you up. I'm going to keep hitting you and hitting you and hitting you until you do what I want. But if you bring them a sandwich, if you bring them a ham and cheese sandwich every single day, what are you going to say? Oh, I'm not going to bring you a ham. Don't bring me a damn ham and cheese. I got 5 other people who are begging to bring me a ham and cheese sandwich. I mean, that's the truth of the matter.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to say it's cut in a triangle. They take the crust off. I like their sandwiches better than yours.
That's right. Exactly.
So I don't know. And that's why I still get caught up in the whole left-right thing, because I'm like, the right has learned, and I think Trump thrusted the Republican Party into a, look, here, we can take this over. This is not Trump did what people wanted Bernie Sanders to do to the Democratic Party. Trump went in, found where the base of the party was, and said, I'm going to run with that, and we will overthrow the neoliberal conservatives. Bernie Sanders was the leftist version of, we're going to overthrow the neoliberal Democrats. But it got to him keep going and going. Now, yes, the Democratic Party did sabotage him at every turn, but there was a sense of, like, especially when Joe Biden was the candidate in 2020, of, well, we have to make nice with these people. There is no real fighting against it. It's just niceties. So where do we go from there? Like
and we don't want that. We don't want that kind of niceness.
No.
We want fighters who are going to fight against corrupt politicians regardless of their party. And we don't like the loyalty to party, and Democrats totally don't get that. All right, I just want to put this on the screen because every now and then I get something right, that I pick a number out of my butt and I get it right. So I think I said it was somewhere around 250 to 500,000 for whites in New York State and 20K for blacks. And you can look, I was pretty darn close, Carlos, I was pretty darn close. So I'm proud of myself. So I want to show you that. But again, this is not what the politicians talk about. They don't talk about making sure that every New Yorker has enough and none have too much. They don't. Al Franken grab some woman's butt at a fair and he needs to step out of office. I mean, it's not what we want.
Which to me, if there was a movement, with the movement behind getting rid of him, sure. If y'all want to get rid of him, and because of that, all power to you all. Are we bringing in new people who are saying this is the problem where you have the black population of New York State has what? It was like 1,400% less than a white family in New York State. Where's the kind of outrage in like, hey, we need to fix this within New York that it is, and it's hard for me to even say just New York. Across the country, black people have far less wealth than white people, but even on other problems too. You look at Maryland. There is not as big of a conversation in Maryland about why the incarceration rate of black men and black boys is one of the highest within the whole country, even passing multiple states in the South. Like, where is the, hey, if we're going to elect Democrats up and down the ballot in Maryland come 2026, why are we so afraid to talk about the actual issues going on with Maryland residents? And it's even crazier to me because Maryland, to me, operates as if the Republicans are still a threat within Maryland statewide, when in the majority of Maryland, there is no Republican threat. Everyone talked about, oh, Larry Hogan could beat Angela Also Brooks. We saw he had no chance to beat Also Brooks. So why don't the Democratic Party in Maryland run as progressive as like a Massachusetts, at least?
By the way, did that surprise you, Carlos, that Also Brooks, who honestly is pretty meh. I don't think she's anybody to be like, oh, excited about.
She's just standard.
Did it surprise you that she crushed Hogan like a bug in that election?
No, I think because of the 2-1.
And you didn't even vote, right? You didn't even vote in that election.
No, I was like, hey, whoever. I
guess I shouldn't out you. I shouldn't out you. I didn't vote either. I didn't vote for either one.
No, you're good. In my mind, I knew Angela Also Brooks would win. When you look at the 2-1 majority that Democrats have within the whole state, when you look at how outside of Larry Hogan, we haven't had a Republican statewide elected official in decades. It's like, look, Republicans aren't going to win statewide in Maryland. Why don't we as Marylanders say, cool, let's have more conversations amongst the Democrat and Green Party for whatever big standing the Green Party has in Maryland to create policies that get more Democrats, that get more Green Party members, actual leftist policies. And then say if Republicans have a problem with it.
Right.
So
not Democrats who are carrying water for the casino industry, but Democrats like Jill Carter, who's basically been sidelined, right? She's not even, actually, she was sidelined. She was kicked upstairs. Westmore promoted her into his administration. But I think that was all just done to take out somebody who was actually very articulately critical, very powerful in her criticism of Democratic leadership. And most of the Democrats in the House are just go along, get along. And even if they come in there with somewhat of a firebrand reputation, they pretty soon they soften. They get beaten down. So let's get back to AOC, though, because I really want to get your thoughts on this. So I put this back on the screen. I've had it 3 times. We haven't talked about it. So I posed this on Facebook in response to somebody who we both know, a friend of ours, who was just kind of relating the AOC burning rallies and not really commenting. So this didn't criticize or challenge what they had to say. But I was just giving my opinion. For a variety of reasons, I'm increasingly disenchanted with AOC. I think she needs to push back against her party, and she doesn't. So I don't think you disagree with that.
Nope.
But then I added, and I really want your take. Let me get this all in there because I didn't have it. I am willing to be wrong. I would concede I was wrong. If she runs for president, if she gets the nomination, right, which is a long shot, I guess, wins, and she governs as a true reformer who does radically redistribute wealth, she fights for peace, or takes on the military industrial complex, pushes through Medicare for all. So if she does those things, that maybe she's a stealth Dem socialist who is playing the long game here. She's going along. Oh, you got great senators. I love Ruben Gallego. I love Mark Kelly. But really, she hates them. And she's really planning to take over the mob and then chop off the head of every capo in there. Is that possibly the case? Maybe, just maybe, she is horrified by all the corruption. We hope she is. And she's going to take a sledgehammer to it as soon as she can. So is that plausible? And if it were true, would that excuse her constant sycophancy to this point?
My quick answer is yes, no, and yes. So we're real quick before I go to that question. One thing I do want to say is just that Jill Carter to me is one of like probably the best elected official that in the state of Maryland that we've ever had. So I just want to give her flowers for that one. But back to your question, in my mind. Now, if she does that, if she goes your exact route as you planned it out, yes, I will say I was totally wrong. Give her credit. She knows how to play this game and do it well, and she should get her name platted on the game itself. Now, the problem is you can't talk so good about all these Democrats that are this way, run for office against corporate Democrats and corporatism within the Democratic Party and Republican parties, because you're going to get called out by those same people who you're saying are great people. What do you do then? What do you do when the Ruben Gallegos of the world says AOC is horrible, let's back whoever the corporate establishment candidate will be? Let's
Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, let's back Gavin Newsom instead of AOC. What are you going to say, that no, Ruben Gallego is also like a plant by the corporate industry? No, you're going to say he's entitled to his own opinion. Well, that doesn't work. We need someone who's going to go in there and be a true leftist fighter. And to me, she has ceded so much ground to corporatism. I don't think that she's a sellout as far as policy is concerned. I think when it comes to how she fights, she is playing not a long game for the leftists overall. She's playing a long game for herself of how long can I stay in here and be good and still be able to talk as much as possible about leftist issues enough before I get hit by the party. And to me, we're not getting anything out of it. Like, it's good for, I don't know what it's good for.
Well, let me ask you that, because that called to mind the Brianna Joy Gray question, where she kind of answered her own question, which was like, is the squad good? And she says to Jamal Bowman, well, you're good because you taught us how useless you are. Yeah. So is that the answer? Like, she really hasn't done good in terms of moving the country in a better direction, policy-wise, or even politically?
No, I mean, because every chance she and the rest of the squad members had when Biden was in office to actually make a change to show why they're actually beneficial to the left, they didn't do it. They didn't do a $15 an hour minimum wage. They didn't do it with Build Back Better. They don't do it when it comes to leftist media by even going on there and building up their own echo chamber and building up their own kind of defense against the corporate party, the corporate media sphere. She's not doing it when it comes to calling out Democratic leadership and trying to get rid of them. She only does it to Republicans, which is good and great and all that. But when it comes to changing our own or the Democratic Party, if we don't do that, the only alternative to horrible Republicans are horrible Democrats. Where do we go from there? It's like they both want to say her and Bernie Sanders are doing this fight the oligarchy tour. You don't hear them talking about Democrats who are in line.
It's fight Republican oligarchs. It's not, and that is so frustrating also, and it completely limits and mutes their message. Okay, last AOC question, and then we're going to move on again, Carlos. Do you think AOC, and I, you know, this is a question they tell you as lawyers, because you, Brent, I'm a lawyer, you shouldn't ask questions you don't know the answers to, but I wasn't that well prepared. I asked questions to witnesses all the time. I had no idea what they were going to say. So here's what I don't know what you're going to say, and I don't know what I would say. Mm-hmm. Do you think AOC could get elected president?
Yes. And that's the part I'm not too happy about. I think she could get elected president now because she is not doing the same leftist stuff. She's not doing the Justice Democrat DSA strategy of how to get in there and make change. And I think that I think she could, if she capitulated a little bit more to the corporate side of the party, like kind of stopped all this anti-billionaire talk. but I think the system does not see her as big of a threat as she was when she got in. So they feel a little bit more comfortable with her kind of being as president. I think they would force her to choose the most conservative vice president ever, and they would try to control her cabinet too. I think they would allow her to be president.
All right, I don't necessarily disagree with that answer, but I'm going to push back on it a little bit with I guess there's, well, I guess I put it this way. To the extent that the corporate elites get to decide who's president, and I think they have a lot of power, I don't think they have as much in these elections as people think. I mean, Bernie was really close to getting the nomination, and they I will concede this. I think, honestly, Jim Clyburn and Barack Obama had a very powerful impact on stopping him. I don't think it was the corporate leanings as much as those two men who were doing what corporations wanted, but they didn't have to. And Barack Obama didn't have to. He chose to. He really didn't. He wasn't. Nancy Pelosi had stopped. She did stop AOC from getting that position as ranking Democrat, no question. And that wasn't corporatism. That was just
pettiness.
Pettiness, right? Personal animus, pettiness. But to the extent that they do have real power, and they do have power, especially in the media, I think. Do you think they would ever trust her? I don't think they trust her. I think they looked at what I put my little quotes up there, and they're like, yeah, she might be effing with us. She's effing with us. She's messing with us.
I mean, that's a good point. I really think that, like I said, for her to win it, I think she would have to go full out. I am turning my back on any kind of leftism, like policy, and just kind of talking rhetoric. I think that, you know what? I'll say this. I think it's harder for me to imagine her as president, easier for me to imagine her as a vice president. I think that if they were like, hey, we need to get the left on our side to just eke out a win, but they're going to put her with a Chris Murphy type. They're going to put her with the Ruben
Schiff,
Gallego.
Adam Schiff.
Yeah, Adam Schiff. They'll put her with him to be like, okay, this is going to be your hey, left, get your little enthusiasm. She is going to be the Tim Walz of the campaign.
I don't know. I'm really interested in your answer. I think your first instinct, which is she could be president, I think is true. I do think she could be, but because I also think we on the left often have short memories or long memories. I guess we have long memories. We remember the AOC who came in, who was the firebrand, who took on Mama Bear. And we're kind of like, that's the AOC that's stuck in our mind, not the one who's bent her knee to the establishment, not the one who has, entertained pro-genocide Zionists in her town hall and called Harris a tireless advocate for ceasefire, which was, obviously BS. So I think she could, I guess. I think you're right. But it's close.
Yeah.
I think it's close.
No, you're right. And the problem with the left to me is the left has a long-term memory, short-term memory loss. And then it also, the left doesn't demand a sort of like periodical check-ins of like, okay, where's this person? Do we still need them? Are they still effective? Where the Republican Party does that. The Republican Party, the moment you criticize how the Republican Party wants a change to happen, oh, you're done. Look at your Matt Gaetz's, your Lauren Boebert's, your Steve Bannon's. They say no, they need a more fake populist side of the right. And if you go against them, they're like, oh no, we're all out against you. It's war. But for the left, whenever we say no, we want populist leftism, and the moment you stop doing that for us as someone who claims that they're on the left, we say, all right, cool, that's fine, whatever. Who cares? You did it for us once. That's all we need.
Carlos is a writer and an activist. He writes for, among other venerable institutions, Maryland Matters, and you can find his work there. But I also do want to highlight your activism. So this is from Facebook. There it is. You have been fighting for term limits in your, well, it's not your county anymore. Maybe, I mean, what's the deal, man? You're different county. That's not your county.
It's still I'll say that it's still my home county. I still have like deep ties to Charles County. I own a home in Charles County. So I still have like deep ties to it. I've moved away now. I'm looking at maybe moving back later on, things like that, because that's where my heart is. My heart is in Charles County. Yes, we're pushing for term limits. I'm one of the leaders of a movement to actually like hold elected officials accountable. We have seen in Charles County the same elected officials, election after election after election after election, stay in office because of name recognition, because people know who they are, because people are like, oh, I've heard that name, let me just bubble it in. And you haven't seen the same type of fight for like new ideas, new thoughts there. I mean, we have 2 commissioners who at the end of this term will have served 16 years and 14 years respectively. So what we're doing is this movement has been a lot of people sending emails, showing up to the last Charles County Commissioners town hall. We've sent almost 400 emails directly to the commissioners. We had people show up at the last town hall, and through our fight, we were actually able to get 2 commissioners to actually say publicly, we support a strong 2-term limit bill. And when I say strong, I want to clarify this. It is a bill that would not have one of those stop gaps in it. It's going to be, you can serve 2 terms, and once you have served 2, you are done. You cannot take a break and then come back. It is 2-term specific. And now we're just trying to ensure that the bill that gets presented is a 2-term and done. And we're trying to get more commissioners to support if they will, as we keep pushing them.
Do you think there's like the fact that these are kind of like commissioners for life, like they lose touch with the needs of the people in Charles County? Is there also a corruption element to it that you're concerned about, or is it more just being kind of in your little tower there in the county commissioner's office?
I think it's yes, and it's that you have a lot of them who get in, and not just specific to them, but you can look over the history of the board. You have a lot of people who get in. At first, they are like, okay, I'm here to fight. I'm here to do something. But as you stay in so long, you just get comfortable with it. You see it as almost like my job is to be commissioner, not my job is to serve the people, spend my time here, fight for them, and then leave and let the next person or the next generation of people come in and move forward change. And when we say that it is corruption, you have a lot of developers who are very heavily influencing the outcome of what happens too. You have a lot of developers who pour money into different candidates' races to keep Charles County a developer-friendly area. Even at the same time, you have the overgrowth of homes. You do not have the same investment in infrastructure. You do not have recreational spaces, and also overcrowding and not building of new schools at the same time to keep up with the population increases.
Yeah, those developers are awful. I mean, we do need more homes. This is one of the many problems with the Democratic Party is they'll, certain aspects of it, like there's this idea of this, I don't know if you know, this abundance agenda. We need to make it easier to build more, but you have to build in a way that generates more working class and middle class housing, which is the complete opposite of what these developers want. They just want to find undeveloped swaths of land and put McMansions on them, and you know that they can sell for $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. I mean, Charles County, you educated me to this. I was like, oh, there's a bunch of like, you know, hillbillies down there. It's the Clampetts. I'm like, no, Charles County. I looked at, oh, they're rich. You got a bunch of
$500,000
gentries, the gentry, right? The landed gentry.
Yeah, $300,000 townhomes are coming in, and yeah, Charles County has become the wealthiest Black county within the whole country, beating out Prince George's. But even on top of that, you have developers like Lennar and others who are building shoddy housing. They're building housing where people are literally coming to county government saying that they're properties are falling apart.
Well, and they squeeze out the working families and the middle class families and the widows and who inherit their house. Seniors who are living on a fixed income. The real estate taxes go way up. They're pushed out. If they're renters, they're pushed. The apartment owners want to just sell the apartment and convert into condos, what have you. Yep. It's very problematic, and that's exactly what these developers do.
No, you're right. And even crazier now, you have literal developers building townhome complexes for the whole complex to just be rented out. There are no homeowners. So now it's literally, we're living in a time where the way BlackRock would just buy up homes, developers are saying, well, let's cut out the middleman. Let's just build homes to rent it out. And on top of that, the homes that they build, people are having so many issues with it, and even issues when it comes to it's this one man who literally they built his home in the yard, put no topsoil, so he can't grow grass in his front yard. And the developers are saying, so what? It's past the time for us to do anything about it. Who cares? Figure it out yourself. And why don't we see things like a stop work order done on these developers? Say, hey, if we have all these issues, you can't keep building here and keep destroying the actual environment and the actual livability of the county. It's sickening.
Very, very upsetting, no question about it. All right, let's move to the state as a whole and the General Assembly. But the problems that we were just discussing that are occurring in Charles County, that's statewide, nationwide issues with the power that these developers have, regardless of who's in charge. To be fair, I try to give credit where it's due. The Democratic Party, well, you can see this article, Democratic majority muscles spending tax plan through preliminary vote. So, Carlos, I think to the great surprise of you and me, the taxes paid by the millionaire class are actually going to go up in Maryland,
which is great.
And I think we do have to give some credit to Governor Moore, who had said he wasn't going to support any tax increases, but there's going to be more revenue. But first, I just went down the line from the article, so I didn't choose this headline over the other. But it is really problematic. Yes, they're raising taxes, but they're also cutting the budget nevertheless. And I don't know why the article calls it $2 billion in what they call cuts. Well, they are cuts. I mean, they call them cuts, they're cuts. They're going to cut mainly, I think, education. The University of Maryland system is going to lose money. HBCUs are going to lose money. I don't know if you're aware of other areas where they're really looking to
I was hearing something about cutting things like the inheritance tax that actually brings in money from wealthy people, just like passing money down to their families. It's also, I will give him the same credit you have. He did great when it comes to like saying, all right, cool, millionaires, billionaires, you're going to pay more in certain taxes, but also did the same thing of saying millionaires and billionaires, in certain ways, we're going to lower the taxes that you pay too. But then telling families at a time when we are all concerned about the Department of Education shutting down, they're also going to kind of defund to a point the education system within the state too. It's crazy.
Yeah, the state depends. Poor districts depend greatly on state money to get enough enough funds to educate their kids because they don't have the real estate tax base. Obviously, if you're in a poor area in rural Maryland, if you're a poor area in inner city Baltimore, the homes don't have any real value. And so there's no money raised by the real estate tax. And if you tried to raise money through the real estate tax, you wouldn't get very much because people couldn't pay it. So the state has to balance that out. But if they're going to be cutting what they're providing, then it's even worse in my opinion. I want the University of Maryland system to get adequate funding, but and HBCUs are really important in some ways, but they're more important because the tuition, I believe, is lower, right? If you go to, is it lower at Hampton or what are some of the other?
I think
Coppin State. Coppin State is a state. Go ahead. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I said it does depend if it's like a public or a private college, if it's cheaper or not. But then you also look at, there was a lawsuit many years ago that proved that Maryland has actually not funded HBCUs as they have funded other schools within the state too. So it's kind of like, are we repeating the same cycle?
Well, it's terrible. I mean, we need to fund. And by the way, I apologize. I was thinking of Morgan State, which is the HBCU, I believe, in Baltimore, whereas Hampton is in Virginia. So my bad there. I do apologize. Coppin State and Bowie State are state universities, which is, it's interesting that we have that because a lot of HBCUs are not state. I know in North Carolina, the North Carolina Central, which I think is private. But I'm not, do you know? But it doesn't really matter. But the point is that kids many cannot afford the state, the flagship school. They can't afford Maryland. They can't afford at UMBC. So you do need community schools and you need HBCUs and
your public state funded colleges too, or universities too, that bring in that have lower tuitions too. Like you need these institutional places. And also, if Maryland is going to have high paying jobs, you need a educated workforce at the same time.
Yeah, no question. By the way, just to close the circle, not that it's that important, but yes, North Carolina Central is indeed a state college as well, state university. All right, well, before we run, Carlos, so yeah, we give him some credit. He's raising the capital gains tax on those who get, really 250, 350. That's a lot of capital gains. I mean, if you, maybe if someone takes a business public or something, well, you should pay on that. You hit the jackpot, you pay tax on it. So I give him some credit. I don't want to be too, we got to be fair here. We're nothing if not fair at Halitics. A lot of people say we're not fair. And then they're also, you make over $500,000, you'll see your tax, which is, again, appropriate. So no issues with that. Good job. But it's not enough. He's not raising enough revenue from the taxes and he's cutting from essential services. So this is typical Democratic stuff. Yeah. They're not that bad. They're not as bad as the Republicans would be, but
you're right.
They're not good enough.
But I also say this, the headline in the article got me too, where it says that Democrats battled with Republicans to get this budget. Democrats in the legislature have a veto-proof majority. There is no battling with Republicans. It is a fake notion that the corporate side and conservative side of Democrats have used to water down legislation by saying, we have to worry about the Republican delegates and senators and what they're going to do. Literally every Republican can vote no on every single bill that a Democrat puts up and it would still pass with a veto-proof majority. So it's not like Democrats make a reason to scale back progressive legislation.
Well, Carlos, look at the smiles on those Democratic leaders there. Now, they look like people who don't have to worry about Republican votes. They can do whatever. They are large and in charge. You see Governor Moore in the middle. To his right is Adrienne Jones. She's the House Speaker. And to Moore's left is Mike Ferguson, or Bill Ferguson, who is the Senate leader of the Democrats. And they do a little bit, but you can see also that caption I thought was really relevant. Governor Moore, lawmakers reject salary cuts despite payroll outpacing inflation. So they're rewarding their employees, their staffers, the people they bring in are getting $250,000. Some of them are getting more than that. This was an opportunity for them to say, no, we're going to tighten our belts too.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when it comes to some of the staffers for delegates, senators, I agree with keeping their salary because a lot of times they're not even paid. As someone who worked for delegates, they're not paid what they should be when they are the reason that a lot of things even happen in legislation. But I think when you get to someone who is an actual delegate, a senator, the governor, some of these like top level positions, it's hard to say that, to tell Marylanders, hey, as a state, all of us are going to have to tighten our belt. But when it comes to their salaries as the top earners in the government, that they're not also going to say, cool, we're going to tighten our belt too. Especially as you see federal workers throughout. Maryland is one of the most impacted states when it comes to the just destruction Trump is doing to federal jobs. So there's going to need to be some belt tightening, especially as the top people.
I'm with you there. Again, I think what we're seeing is some of these agency heads and the directors of the governors, agencies, they're not seeing the budget cuts, and they've already gotten some of them double-digit raises. And that would be, again, a way to send a signal to the Maryland public that Democrats aren't going to continue to enrich ourselves when you're getting poorer.
Exactly. And there's not that push.
Okay, we're going to end our program with the Green Party candidate for governor, Andy Ellis. I think I was at a meeting with Andy yesterday, and I really like Andy. He's a really good guy. He did a little gathering at the Bowie South Bowie Library, which is very nice. It's all modern, all been updated. I don't know if you've been to that library. I don't think it's that far from Charles County, because it's sort of kind of near Charles County, I think. Maybe I don't know my geography. Anyway,
really. They're more northern Prince George's than closer to us, but yeah. I understand.
Well, Bowie is more south, isn't it? It's on 50 or below. It's south of 50, I think. Maybe not. No, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Here's the thing. Andy was saying, he wasn't even saying, of course he wants to win and he's going to campaign hard, but, he's looking more to get the 3, 4, 5% vote. Is this, where do you see his top end? What do you think? And what does a campaign by a Green like Andy do for our state?
I think that the Green Party, Andy, and I've never met him in person, but I think that one of their main points, and I'm actually glad he's saying this from my own personal thought, is that the goal is to get ballot access for them. But I think at the same time, they need to be pushing, and I hope at every single one of his town halls, if they have someone in that area who's running as a Green Party locally, that they also start pushing them as well, because I think it's hard for a lot of people to imagine any other party besides Republican and Democrat when they just don't see them elected anywhere else mostly. It is, you need to have people elected as Green Party locally that aren't always your city council people, because sometimes the city council or like school board, you're not known by your party affiliation. They need some actual offices that people have. You see a Green Party is the person who's in that office, and that people feel like, oh, that's actually like a real thing. It's a real party that has the potential of winning. But I think running as a Green Party, I think that it's good that he's doing it to even get the Green Party's name out there. And I know since Jill Stein got 1% in Maryland in 2024, that they don't have to fight for ballot access now. This time, they're just trying to make sure that they keep it.
All right, here's your chance. I know Andy is a periodic watcher of my podcast, and he's been on the show, and he's a friend of the show, and he's a great guy. Here's your chance to talk to Andy. What's your advice to him? How would you urge him to campaign to maximize the response that he gets, the positive response he gets from voters across the state?
I would say start going throughout the state, not just in your areas that may have high.
By the way, just to interrupt you, he is from Baltimore.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So yeah, I would say go to your southern Maryland parts, go to your eastern shore, go to your western Maryland parts to start the conversation. I would say for him too is capitalize on this anger towards the Democratic Party establishment and show that there is another way for people to move forward. I would even start kind of pushing that conversation as there are not two major parties within Maryland. There's one major party, the Democratic Party. So we need to have the counterpoint to Democratic Party be the Green Party. It needs to be those two specific parties. I would try to hit start working with maybe some Democrats to try to get ranked choice voting push statewide. Try to have like a larger movement to change the kind of structure of of how we run.
Well, they're definitely pushing those. I mean, what you're talking about are a lot of ways that Andy is definitely campaigning. I know ranked choice voting is a focus. He's been all over the state. He's had events in Cumberland, Maryland, which is a very poor city in Western Maryland. So I think you guys are on the same page.
Wow. So yeah, I just say if they're doing all that, then keep doing what you're doing. And I would say just one other point is get some local people running. Get some local people running with that Green Party title that can show people, hey, we can win on all levels of the government.
All right, last question on this topic, and then you got the final word on whatever you want to discuss. Because you didn't really, I don't think you answered this, and I was listening closely, and I thought you were going to go in this direction, although I didn't ask it. Any specific policies or issues that you think are really in the forefront of Marylanders' minds? And I don't want to, kind of give you the answer, but I'll tell you what I talked about, what I mentioned: affordable housing, healthcare. So you can say those are good ones. Those are going to activate people. But may have something else that you really think would be a way for Andy to distinguish his policy proposals from Governor Moore and the Democrats.
Yeah, I think those are great. I would say another one to add to it is, how are we going to defend against these federal job losses that we're looking at? How you're going to bring actual jobs to the state that we are going to lose because people can't work at the DOD or the Department of Education or any of those departments that they used to work at. Even look at Prince George's County, they are probably going to lose the FBI building. So look at all these job losses, and if you give people an answer to how you would kind of fix this for them, I think that you would get a lot of support out of them.
All right, Carlos, it's always great to talk to you. It's always a learning experience for me, so I appreciate that. See, look at me. I have my little weird tics too. Like I go after AOC and Kulinski, but I do crap too with my ears. And so here,
you'll be sad.
So here's my question for you. What do you want to talk about to end the program? What's like on Carlos's mind that maybe we haven't hit yet?
Well, you've hit. My main thing was term limits. I'll just make another plug for that. If you're in Charles County and you care about actually holding your government accountable, making sure that we have new candidates coming in, and making sure that we end this sense of career commissioners and just name recognition taking over our election process, please sign our email action, turn out to town halls, turn out to public comment sessions, and really make your voice heard that you want a strong term limit bill passed by the Charles County Commissioners ASAP.
It's tough because you're asking them to vote themselves out of office.
Yeah. You're generally pushing. Yeah, this is really pushing them to say, hey, I want you to actually hold yourselves accountable. And I think that we've done great so far. We got, like I said, 2 commissioners who are like, oh, I'm totally down with this, and stated publicly that they agree with it. Now we have just had to make sure the bill that comes out of the commissioner president's office is actually a strong bill that we can get passed.
All right, well, that is going to do it. It's always great to have Carlos. I will have him back whenever he wants. We'll be pushing him to come back when he's available, and I will be back tomorrow, which is tomorrow when you're watching. So if you're watching when I post it, is Tuesday. Have a great day.